Now at 8:30, Lexington firefighters are trying to figure out what caused a fire that forced 4 people out of their home overnight.
An open enrollment for the Kentucky Health Exchange starts today.
And we have some good news for any UK fans sad about last night's loss.
This is WKYT This Morning.
Happy first of the month to you. I'm Michelle Chamberlain.
And I'm Sean Moody. Yeah, kind of wrapping up a huge weekend here in Lexington. I know we're still kind of a little bit excited over watching American Pharoah in the Breeders' Cup yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a great weekend. Trick-or-treating, Breeders' Cup. Sad about the UK loss, but still fun to go to the game.
Yeah, now on to November. Let's find out from Mike Linden right now to see if it's going to feel very November-like today.
Well, Sean and Michelle, first of the month, rent's due, and things are feeling a lot like the end of November and the fact that it's still quite overcast. We haven't been able to shake the clouds very much. There's still some moisture left over, though, along the southern edge of the state and closest to the southeastern mountains. As far as that, though, it is still quite soggy looking outside thanks to the overcast skies. Temperatures, though, kind of capped off by those clouds. There really hasn't been much growth so far this morning because of those clouds. Nonetheless, still in the mid-50s, still comfortable at least outside. It's not exactly chilly, but an up and down week lies ahead of us here with conditions and temperatures set to change dramatically in the coming days. I'll show you what I mean coming up in about 10 minutes.
New this morning, Lexington firefighters are still on the scene this morning after a fire broke out at a home overnight.
And right now, an investigator is there at the scene to try and figure out how this all happened. WKYT's Mike Byer is there this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Sean and Michelle. Fire crews wrapped up about 30 minutes ago here in the 100 block of Northwood Drive in Lexington, where a house fire broke out at around 4:30 this morning. Now, we recently learned that there were 6 people inside at the time, 4 of them being children. Firefighters tell us that the fire broke out in the attic and tell us that the fire broke out in the attic, but they say they were able to put it out in roughly 15 minutes. The family of 6 were sleeping at the time, but due to the loud barks of their dog, they were able to escape without any injuries. Also, no firefighters were hurt. Crews believe the home is not a total loss, but they're unsure. Firefighters say that the home is not a total loss, but they say that it's still under investigation. One thing is certain, though, is that they're telling us that there are no working smoke alarms.
The occupants were actually woken by their dog. They didn't have any working smoke alarms in their house, so it's always a good idea with a time change right now to change your batteries and your smoke alarms, and also to make sure that you do have working smoke alarms.
The family living here tells us that they have been having problems with their circuit breaker, and they believe that's how the fire was sparked. However, firefighters tell us that it is still under investigation. One thing that is certain is that their dog played the role of hero this morning by waking them up. In Lexington, Mike Byer, WKYT.
All right, Mike, thank you. The Breeders' Cup may be over, brought a lot of excitement to town, but Lexington may still feel the hangover today at Bluegrass Airport. Officer Dawn took this video from Sky First on Friday of all the private planes parked out there. Air traffic controllers had to close the general aviation runway to give all those planes more room to park. Several airlines have also brought in larger airplanes to handle the extra airline passengers. First flight of the day took off about 2.5 hours ago, and organizers say that every flight out of the city is booked. If you plan on heading out to Bluegrass Airport today or tomorrow, officials say it's a good idea to get there about 2 hours early and be patient.
It was history in the making yesterday for horse racing fans everywhere. With his win at the Breeders' Cup Classic, American Pharoah became the first Triple Crown winner ever to win the historic race. Last night's race was also Pharoah's final trip to the racetrack. He'll retire to Ashford Stud in Woodford County. Keeneland had an amazing year as well. More than 50,000 people packed into the track Saturday for the second day of the Breeders' Cup. Breeders' Cup officials say they expect around $65 million to come into Lexington because of the events. The total 2-day attendance at Keeneland for this year's Breeders' Cup was about 95,000 people.
Huge weekend over there. So exciting. Then to go from that excitement over to the football game after that. A lot of excitement before the game and not so much after. It was a tough loss for the Cats last night. This is the 31st out of 32 times now that the Tennessee Volunteers got one over on the Wildcats.
That's right. And the game started off well enough for Kentucky. The Cats strike first off a 77-yard fumble recovery. Kentucky and Tennessee battle back and forth in the first half, but the Volunteers get the leg up going into halftime up 10. The third quarter is where things became problematic. Tennessee scores 2 pairs of touchdowns to Kentucky's 1. The Volunteers win at 52-21. The Cats will be on the road next Saturday against Georgia. And if football losses have got you down, it's time to celebrate. Kentucky basketball season gets back into swing tomorrow. The Cats take on Ottawa University tomorrow night at Rupp Arena for the season's first exhibition game. That game can only be seen online, though. The Cats tip off tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on the SEC Network Plus. Now, thousands of prisoners from across the country are being released this weekend. It's the largest single release of federal prisoners in U.S. history. About 6,000 prisoners in all will be going home, a little more than 50 from right here in Kentucky. They're being freed early because of a change in sentencing guidelines for nonviolent drug offenders. All of the prisoners released will be under mandatory supervision. A majority had already been living in halfway houses. And open enrollment for Connect starts today. This year, Connect leaders say there are more options to choose from this year. Insurance experts say you must re-enroll to continue your coverage. The enrollment period closes on January 31st, but those looking for insurance by the new year must sign up by December 15th.
And remember, if you haven't done it already, or if your phone hasn't done it for you already, it's time to set your clocks back for daylight saving time. That ended overnight. The Lexington Fire Department says now is also a good time to switch out the batteries in your smoke detectors. I'm going to remember that when I get home, for sure. It is 8:38 on your Saturday morning, and still to come here. A hilarious scare at a college football game. What happens when you mix zombies and Kirk Herbstreit?
I'm going to do that to you, Sean.
Well, now I'll be looking.
And when you want to talk about scary weather, it looks like things should be pretty good to kick off the 1st of November with a pretty active week ahead of us. I'll show you what I mean coming up.